Part 3. Collision of Worlds. The message went out on the third day. Thalvex sat in his quarters, reviewing the carefully worded report one final time before sending it. He'd described the humans as peaceful survivors, emphasized their willingness to cooperate, and requested a diplomatic delegation rather than a military fleet. But he knew the Empire well enough to understand that both would come. Report sent, Quinara confirmed from the communication station. We should expect a response within a week. A decision fleet within 30 days. On Haven Prime, Doyen gathered his council. 12 representatives from each of the Haven stations filled the assembly chamber. The debate had been going for 3 hours and voices were rising. We should destroy all evidence of the Genesis Protocol, one representative argued. Give them nothing they can use against us. That's the same as admitting we did something wrong, another countered. We survived. That's not a crime. Yunji stood at her position, arms crossed, jaw set. Neither approach addresses the real problem. We're vulnerable here, 12 stations that can't move quickly. If the Empire decides we're a threat, we're trapped in this nebula like fish in a barrel. We have defenses, a younger council member said. Mirai, a historian who'd spent decades studying both human and Velkari culture, leaned forward. Our weapons are more advanced than anything the Empire has seen. We can protect ourselves. Protecting ourselves means war, Doyen said quietly. The room fell silent. The moment we fire weapons at the Empire, we become exactly what they fear. Dangerous, aggressive, a threat that must be eliminated. Is that what we want? To survive Earth only to die fighting the galaxy? Hyunwoo stood up. As one of the youngest council members, his voice didn't carry the weight of the elders, but his connection to the communion made him sensitive to the mood of all humanity. The younger generation wants to join the galaxy. We're tired of hiding. We never saw Earth, we never felt the sun on our faces. All we've known is these stations and the fear of discovery. Many of us want to explore, to meet other species, to be part of something bigger. And many of us remember what happened when we tried to be part of something bigger. Yunji shot back. We trusted that the galaxy was safe. We built our civilization in the open, and someone destroyed us for it. Forgive me if I'm not eager to make that mistake twice. The council dissolved into arguments. Doyen closed his eyes and felt the communion ripple with conflicting emotions. Fear, hope, anger, curiosity. Humanity was divided, and time was running out. On Thalvex's ship, Quinara worked through the night analyzing the data the humans had provided. The Genesis Protocol was brilliant and terrifying in equal measure. The biological calculations alone would take Velkari scientists decades to understand. But what fascinated her most was the cultural data. During their 50 years in the digital dream, humans had created art, stories, music, philosophy. They'd experienced centuries of subjective time, and they'd used it to rebuild their entire culture from memory and imagination. She read poetry written by Mirai during those digital years, verses about loss and rebirth that made her skin glow with emotion. You've been reading for 6 hours, Thalvex said, entering the lab. Find anything useful? Everything is useful, Quinara replied. Commander, these humans aren't just survivors. There's something new. During their digital existence, they had time to reflect on everything humanity had ever been and decide what they wanted to become. They chose compassion. They chose community. They chose to be better than they were. That doesn't change the fact that they violate the Ascension laws. Maybe the Ascension laws are wrong, Quinara said quietly. Maybe we made those rules out of fear instead of wisdom. Before Thalvex could respond, alarms blared. His tactical officer's voice came over the communication system. Commander, we have ships incoming. Multiple signatures. They're broadcasting Empire authority codes. Thalvex rushed to the bridge. On the view screen, 5 Velkari warships emerged from faster-than-light travel. They were early. The decision fleet shouldn't have arrived for another 3 weeks. Hail them, Thalvex ordered. A face appeared on the screen. Councillor Vexthun, a high-ranking political officer known for his hardline stances on security matters. His scales were dark blue, marking him as one of the old aristocratic families. Commander Thalvex, stand down from your position near the human habitat. We're taking command of this situation. Counselor, I requested a diplomatic delegation. These are warships. Because the situation requires military oversight, Vexthun replied coldly. You reported a hidden human civilization with illegal technology. That's a security matter, not a diplomatic one. We'll handle it from here. Thalvex felt his stomach drop. This was wrong, too fast, too aggressive. Sir, these humans are peaceful. They've been nothing but cooperative. Peaceful beings don't hide for 3 centuries using technology that violates our most sacred laws. Move your ship aside, Commander. That's an order. On Haven Prime, alarms rang. Yunji's security systems had detected the new ships before Thalvex could warn them. She was already in the command center, pulling up defensive protocols. 5 warships, her tactical officer reported. Heavy weapons. Shield patterns indicate they're preparing for combat operations. Doyen arrived moments later, Hyunwoo and Mirai close behind. Options? We can activate the quantum shields, Yunji said. They won't be able to target us accurately. Then we can disable their weapon systems with precision strikes. No casualties, but they'll be floating dead in space. That's an act of war, Mirai protested. If we attack first, we lose any chance of peaceful integration. If we don't defend ourselves, we might not get another chance, Yunji countered. Hyunwoo closed his eyes, reaching out through the communion. He felt the fear of millions of humans across the 12 stations. But he also felt something else, determination. Humans had faced extinction once. They'd survived. They wouldn't go quietly if it came again. What if we show them? He suggested. Not tell them. Show them what we can do without hurting anyone. Demonstrate that we're powerful enough to defend ourselves but choose not to attack. Maybe that proves we're not the threat they think we are. Doyen considered it. It was risky. But everything was risky now. Yunji, activate defenses, but non-lethal only. Disable, don't destroy. Can we do that? Yunji's fingers flew across her console. It's harder to disable than destroy, but yes. We have the precision for it, then do it. And open a channel to all Empire ships. Let them hear me. Moments later, Doyen's face appeared on every screen of every Empire ship in the area. Vexton's expression twisted with rage at the intrusion into his secure systems. I am Doyen of Haven Prime. We mean you no harm. We request diplomatic negotiations, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. Please stand down and allow peaceful contact. You're in no position to make demands, Vexton snarled. You're criminals who violated the Ascension laws. Surrender your technology and submit to Empire authority, or we will use force. We've violated laws we never agreed to, Doyen replied calmly. We weren't part of your empire when we made our choices. We were dying. Should we have chosen extinction to obey rules we never knew existed? Enough talking, Vexton ordered. Weapons, target their power cores. Prepare to fire. On Thalvex's ship, Quinara gasped. Commander, they're really going to attack. We have to do something. Thalvex made his choice. He'd spent days with the humans. He'd seen their children. He'd read their history. He knew they weren't monsters, and he knew that firing on them was wrong. Communications, override frequency. All ships, this is Commander Thalvex. Cease targeting operations. That's a direct order. You don't have authority here, Vexton snapped. Weapons fire. The 5 warships unleashed their weapons. Beams of concentrated energy lanced toward Haven Prime and the surrounding stations. For a moment, it seemed like humanity's 300-year survival was about to end. Then the quantum shields activated. Reality bent around the Haven network. The weapons fire didn't bounce off. It didn't even hit. It simply ceased to exist in the space where the shields operated. The warship's sensors went haywire, unable to track targets that their quantum-level technology couldn't detect. What is this? Vexthun shouted. Tactical report. Sir, they're everywhere and nowhere. Our targeting systems can't lock on. It's like they're in multiple positions at once. Yunji smiled grimly. Phase 2. Disable their weapons. From Haven's defense platforms, precision beams shot out. They didn't target the Empire ship's hulls or life support. They targeted weapon systems specifically. Circuit by circuit, the beams overloaded and fused the firing mechanisms. Within 30 seconds, all 5 warships were helpless, but their engines and life support remained untouched. Doyen's voice came across all channels again. We could have destroyed you. We have the power. We have the technology, but we chose to protect ourselves without killing anyone. Does that sound like a species that deserves extinction? Thalvex stared at his screens in wonder. The humans had just demonstrated military superiority over the Empire's finest warships without causing a single casualty. Part 2. The hidden truth. Doyen led them deeper into Haven Prime. into sections where fewer people walked and the walls were covered with memorial plaques. Each plaque held thousands of names, the dead of Earth, the ones who didn't make it. We called it the Genesis Protocol, Doyen explained, his voice echoing in the quiet corridor. Dr. Jiwon designed it in the final months before Earth died. She was our greatest mind, our last hope, and she gave us a chance no one thought possible. Quinara moved closer to a holographic display that showed complex equations. Her tentacles traced the patterns, and her skin paled as she understood what she was seeing. This is neural mapping combined with quantum entanglement. You didn't just copy yourselves. You transferred consciousness itself. Exactly, Doyen confirmed. Every person on Earth, every memory, every thought, every dream. We compressed it all into quantum data streams and shot them across space to these coordinates. It took 18 months to upload everyone. Some people went first. Some went last. Jiwon went last, making sure everyone else made it before she did. Thalvex examined the equations but couldn't fully understand them. The Velkari were advanced, but this technology was beyond anything he'd seen. This breaks the Empire's ascension laws. Species aren't allowed to modify themselves this drastically. Not after what happened to the Krell ancients. We know, Yunji said sharply. That's why we stayed hidden. Your Empire decided long ago that species should evolve naturally or not at all. But we didn't have time for natural evolution. We had 18 months. Hyunwoo touched the holographic display and it shifted to show the Haven stations under construction. Robotic drones worked tirelessly, building piece by piece over decades. While we existed as data, we experienced time differently. What was 50 years outside felt like centuries to us. We lived in a digital dream, learning, growing, changing. Changing how? Thalvex pressed. He needed to understand what he was dealing with. Doyen led them to an observation room. Below them, hundreds of humans worked on various projects. Some assembled complex machinery. Others studied star charts. Some simply talked and laughed together. They looked normal enough, but Thalvex noticed something odd. They moved with unusual coordination. When one person needed a tool, another handed it to them without being asked. Conversations happened with minimal words. Watch, Hyunwoo said quietly. One of the engineers below encountered a problem with a circuit panel. Within seconds, 3 other people turned toward him. They didn't speak, but they all moved to help. Each person knew exactly what needed to be done. The repair happened in perfect synchronization. They're connected, Quinara breathed. Neural linking? Not exactly, Hyunwoo explained. During our time in the digital dream, we existed in a shared space. All of us together. When we were reconstructed, something remained. We can feel each other, share thoughts if we choose to. We call it the communion. Thalvex felt his blood run cold. A species with shared consciousness. The Empire had strict regulations against hive minds after the swarm wars. Too much unity meant too much power and too few decisions. All of you? Everyone. Everyone born before the reconstruction, Doyen clarified. Those of us who went through the digital dream. The new generation like Hyunwoo, they have it stronger. They were born into the communion instead of joining it later. This is exactly what the Empire fears. Thalvex said quietly, a species that thinks as one, that acts as one. We don't think as one, Hyunwoo corrected firmly. We're still individuals. We still disagree. We still have our own thoughts and dreams. The communion just lets us understand each other better. Share knowledge faster. Work together more efficiently. Yunji crossed her arms. And it lets us defend ourselves. Commander, do you know why you found us now after 300 years of surveys found nothing? You let us find you, Thalvex realized. You've been watching the whole time. Every patrol, every survey, every ship that came close, Yunji confirmed. We have technology you can't detect. Shields that bend sensors, systems that predict patrol patterns. We could have stayed hidden forever if we wanted to. So why reveal yourselves now? Quinara asked. Doyen walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Because hiding forever isn't living. Our children deserve to know the wider galaxy. We've spent 3 centuries healing, rebuilding, and growing. But we can't stay isolated forever. Eventually, someone would find us. We decided it might as well be now on our terms. Thalvex paced the observation room. His mind raced with implications. The Empire needed to know about this. But what would they do with the information? The High Council was cautious about anything that challenged the established order. Humans with shared consciousness and advanced technology would terrify them. I have to send a report, Thalvex said finally. You know I do, but I can frame it carefully. Request a diplomatic review instead of a military assessment. Give you time to present your case to the council. How much time? Doyen asked. 30 days, maybe 40 before a decision fleet arrives. They'll want to study you, interview you, verify everything. And if they decide we're too dangerous? Yunji challenged. What then? Thalvex had no answer for that. The Empire had protocols for dangerous species, quarantine, forced regression. In extreme cases, elimination. He didn't want to think about humans facing those options. Let me show you something, Hyunwoo said suddenly. Something that might help you understand we're not a threat. He led them to what looked like a school. Human children of various ages studied together. But these weren't silent, coordinated drones. They laughed. They argued. They played. Some worked alone. Some worked in groups. They were individuals who happened to have a connection to each other. A little girl noticed them watching and waved. Hyunwoo waved back. She's my cousin. Her name is Sora. She's 8 years old and she wants to be a doctor. She's her own person with her own dreams. The communion doesn't take that away. It just means she'll never feel truly alone. Quinara moved closer to the window. In Velkari culture, we value independence above almost everything else. Each person is separate, distinct. The idea of shared thoughts frightens us. It frightened us too at first, Doyen admitted. When we woke up in these new bodies and felt the communion for the first time, many people panicked. They thought they'd lost themselves. But over time, we learned to see it differently. We're not less individual. We're individually stronger because we're together. Thalvex watched the children play. They looked happy, normal. Not like the hive mind monsters the Empire feared. But would the Council see them the same way? Or would they see only the threat of a unified species that could share knowledge and coordinate actions instantly? I need full access to your historical records, Thalvex said. Everything about the Genesis Protocol. How it works, what it did to you. The Council will want proof of everything you've told me. You'll have it, Doyen promised. But Commander, there's something else you should know. Something we discovered recently that changes everything. He pulled up a star chart. It showed Earth's old solar system. The collapsed sun. The debris field where planets used to orbit. Standard survey data. But then Doyen highlighted a section of the data, enhanced it, and rotated the view. We sent drones back to Earth's system 5 years ago. Long-range observation only. We wanted to see the place where we died, and we found something the official Empire records don't mention. The image showed an object buried in the stellar debris. It was artificial, clearly manufactured, and its design was Velkari. That, Doyen said quietly, is a stellar collapse device. Velkari military issue. Model used 300 years ago. Our sun didn't die naturally, Commander. It was killed. And someone in your Empire knows who did it? The silence in the room was absolute. Quinara's skin flashed through colors of shock and disbelief. Thalvex felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. That's impossible, he whispered. We would never, maybe not the Empire as a whole, Doyen said. But someone did. Someone tested a weapon in what they thought was empty space. Someone killed 5 billion humans and covered it up. And that same someone probably won't be happy that we survived to tell the story. Thalvex looked at Yunji's hard eyes and understood her suspicion now. She wasn't just protecting her people from discovery. She was protecting them from whoever had tried to eliminate them once before. Do you have proof? He asked. We have the coordinates. We have the images. We have the device's serial code, Doyen listed. What we don't have is access to Velkari military records to trace who deployed it. That's where you come in, Commander. You want us to trust the Empire? Help us find out who murdered our species. Thalvex stood at a crossroads. One path led to following protocol, reporting everything and letting the Empire handle it. The other led to something more dangerous and more necessary, finding the truth. If I do this, he said slowly, if I help you investigate, I'm committing treason against the Empire. Only if they have something to hide, Hyunwoo pointed out. Quinara moved beside Thalvex. Commander, if what they're saying is true, someone in the Empire has been covering up genocide for 3 centuries. Part 1. The Discovery. The Velkari warship cut through the darkness of space like a blade through water. Commander Thalvex stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the displays with practiced efficiency. 300 years had passed since the humans disappeared from the galaxy. Their sun had collapsed, taking Earth and everything around it into oblivion. Now their old territory was nothing but empty space and forgotten memories. "Commander, I'm detecting something unusual," Quinara said from her station. The science officer's tentacles moved rapidly across her console, her bioluminescent skin flickering with confusion. "There are power signatures coming from inside the nebula." Thalvex moved closer to her station. The nebula ahead was a massive cloud of gas and electromagnetic interference. Ships avoided it because sensors barely worked inside it. Nothing should be there. Nothing could survive there. "Show me," he commanded. The display lit up with data. Deep inside the nebula there were structures. Artificial structures. Power cores hummed with energy. Communication signals bounced between locations. It was impossible. The area had been surveyed a century ago and found empty. "It could be pirates," Quinara suggested, but her voice carried doubt. "Or a research outpost we don't know about." "Send a probe," Thalvex ordered. "Let's see what we're dealing with." The probe launched and disappeared into the swirling gases. For 20 minutes they received nothing but static. Then suddenly the feed cleared. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. 12 massive stations floated in a network, connected by glowing bridges of energy. Each station was the size of a small moon. Ships moved between them in organized patterns. Gardens visible through transparent domes grew green and lush. And walking through the corridors captured clearly by the probe's cameras were humans. "This is impossible," Thalvex whispered. "They're all dead. Everyone knows they're dead." "Apparently not everyone," Quinara replied, her voice filled with wonder. Before Thalvex could respond, his communication panel lit up. A signal was coming from the stations. Someone was hailing them. He hesitated for only a moment before accepting. A human face appeared on the screen. The man looked to be in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too much. He wore simple gray clothing and carried himself with the calm authority of someone used to making difficult decisions. "I am Doyen, Chief Administrator of Haven Prime," the man said in perfect Velkari standard language. "We detected your probe. We've been expecting someone to find us eventually. I suppose our time hiding is over." Thalvex struggled to find words. The entire galaxy believed humans were extinct. The historical records were clear, yet here was a human, speaking to him from a thriving station hidden in a nebula. How? Was all Thalvex could manage. Doyen smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's a long story, Commander. One I'm willing to share, but first, I need your word that you'll hear us out before making any decisions. What we are, what we've become, it might frighten your empire, but we mean no harm to anyone. How many of you are there?" Quindara asked, leaning into the view of the camera. 4.7 million, Doyen answered calmly. "Across 12 stations. We call ourselves the Haven Network. We've been here for 3 centuries, surviving, thriving, and staying hidden." Thalvex felt his stomachs tighten. Nearly 5 million humans, an entire civilization that shouldn't exist. The Empire's first contact protocol was clear. Any new civilization or lost species had to be reported immediately to the High Council. Integration procedures would begin. Tests would be conducted. The Empire would need to know everything about these humans. "I need to report this," Thalvex said carefully. "You understand that, don't you? The Empire will want to know about you." "I understand perfectly," Doyen replied, "but I'm asking for a chance to explain our situation first. Come to Haven Prime, meet with us, see what we've built, then decide what you want to tell your Empire." It was against protocol. Thalvex should have sent the report immediately and waited for orders. But something in Doyen's voice, a careful, measured tone, told him there was more to this story. Something important enough that the humans had stayed hidden for 300 years. "I'll come," Thalvex decided, "but my ship stays at a safe distance and my crew will report if anything happens to me." "Fair enough," Doyen agreed. "Transmitting docking coordinates now. Welcome to Haven Prime, Commander. You're about to see something no one in the galaxy has seen for a very long time. Humans who refuse to die." The transmission ended. Thalvex turned to his crew and saw his own shock reflected in their faces. Quinara was already working frantically at her console, pulling up every historical record about humans she could find. "Commander," she said quietly, "if there really are this many humans alive and they've been hiding this long, they must have technology we don't know about. Technology that kept them hidden from every survey and patrol for 3 centuries." "I know," Thalvex replied. That's what worries me. His tactical officer, a massive insectoid named Krell, clicked his mandibles nervously. Should we call for reinforcements? If they have weapons we don't know about. No. Thalvex cut him off. Not yet. We do this carefully. One wrong move and we could start something none of us want. The shuttle ride to Haven Prime took 30 minutes. As they approached, Thalvex got his first close look at the station. It was beautiful in a way Velkari architecture never achieved. Curved lines and organic shapes blended with hard technology. The docking bay opened smoothly, and artificial gravity pulled them in gently. Doyun waited for them with two others. A woman stood to his left, wearing what looked like a military uniform. Her eyes were hard and suspicious. Her name tag read Yunji. To his right stood a younger man, maybe in his 20s, with curious eyes and a slight smile. His tag identified him as Hyunwoo. Commander Thalvex, Doyen greeted, extending his hand in the old human custom. Thalvex had read about handshakes in historical files. He awkwardly grasped the human's hand. Welcome to Haven. Let me show you what humanity became when the universe tried to kill us. They walked through corridors that hummed with energy. Humans passed them, some stopping to stare at the Velkari visitors with curiosity rather than fear. Children played in open areas. Gardens grew under artificial suns. Everything was clean, organized, and thriving. 300 years ago, Doyun began as they walked. Earth's sun began to collapse. We had 18 months before everything we knew would be destroyed. Not enough time to evacuate using conventional ships. Not enough time to do anything except die. So how did you survive? Quinara asked, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her protocol training. Doyen stopped at a large window overlooking the station's core. Energy pulsed there in patterns that hurt to look at directly. We did something desperate. Something your empire would probably call illegal. We uploaded ourselves, Commander, all of us. We became data and transmitted ourselves across space to construction drones we'd sent ahead. We died and were reborn. Thalvex stared at the pulsing energy, beginning to understand. That's why no one found you. You didn't exist physically for decades. 50 years, Doyen confirmed. While we slept as data, these stations were built. When they were ready, we were brought back, reconstructed, but the process changed us. Changed you how? Thalvex asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Hyunwoo spoke for the first time, his voice young but certain. That's what you need to understand before you report us, Commander. We're not quite the same humans that died. We're something new. Something your empire has never seen before. Yunji's hand rested on her weapon, and something that might scare them enough to try finishing what fate started. Part 4. The Price of Survival. The disabled Empire warships floated in the void for 3 days before the High Council authorized their retrieval. During that time, Haven Prime became a pressure cooker of conflicting opinions and rising tensions. Yunji wanted to fortify every station and prepare for full-scale war. She worked 18-hour shifts, drilling defense teams and running combat simulations. They've seen what we can do, she told Doyen during a heated council meeting. Now they know we're a threat. They'll come back prepared. Hyunwoo led the opposite faction. His generation had grown up in the shadows, and they were tired of hiding. We should share the Genesis protocol with species facing extinction. Show the galaxy we're not trying to dominate anyone. We want to help. Share our most valuable technology with people who might turn around and use it against us? Yunji shook her head. That's suicide. Doyen listened to both sides, feeling the communion pulse with anxiety. Through that shared connection, he sensed the fear of millions of humans across the Haven network. They'd survived so long by staying hidden. Now they were exposed, and the Empire knew exactly where to find them. But he also felt something else. A strange awakening that concerned him deeply. Seojin, the head of security operations, approached Doyen privately after the meeting. He was a quiet man who preferred action to politics, but the worry on his face was clear. Sir, we have a problem. I've been monitoring the communion for unusual activity. Ever since we activated the defensive system, something changed. The connection between people is getting stronger, especially with the younger generation. What do you mean stronger? Doyen asked. Seojin pulled up data on his tablet. Hyunwoo and others born after the reconstruction are starting to synchronize in ways we never expected. Yesterday, I watched a repair team of 6 people work on a damaged power relay. They didn't speak once, not one word. But they moved in perfect unison like they shared a single mind. Doyen felt cold. The Genesis protocol was supposed to give us connection, not create a hive mind. I know. But under stress, under threat, the communion is evolving. Or maybe it's just revealing what it always was. Sir, I think we need to tell people about this. The Empire was right to be concerned about us. We're changing into something even we don't fully understand. Before Doyen could respond, alarms blared again. But this time it wasn't the Empire ships. It was an internal alert from one of the outer stations. Station 7 is under attack, the communication officer reported. Not from the Empire. Unknown vessels. They're not broadcasting any identification codes. Yunji was already moving toward the command center. Show me. The screens displayed 3 ships that looked nothing like standard Empire designs. They were older, predatory in shape, and they were targeting Station 7's life support system specifically. That's not a military operation, Yunji said grimly. That's an assassination attempt. Someone wants to kill humans and make it look like an accident. Doyen felt sick. Can we get defenses there in time? Station 7 has basic shields, but nothing like prime systems. Those ships are using plasma weapons. They'll burn through the hull in minutes. On Station 7, 1,200 humans rushed toward escape pods. But the attack had damaged the docking systems. Half the pods were offline. People would die if help didn't come soon. Yunwu closed his eyes and reached out through the communion. He felt his people dying, felt their terror, and something inside him snapped into place. I can help them, he said quietly. How? Doyun demanded. We can't get ships there fast enough. Not ships. The communion. Hyunwoo's voice changed, became layered with other voices. The voices of thousands of young humans across the Haven network. We can coordinate the evacuation. Every escape pod. Every person. We can see everything at once and guide them. That's not possible, Seojun said. The distances are too far. The communion has never worked across stations before. It does now, Hyunwoo replied, and his eyes glowed faintly with the same quantum energy that powered the stations. We've been holding back, afraid of what we're becoming. But our people are dying, and I won't let fear kill them. He sat down and went completely still. Across the Haven network, every human in Hyunwoo's generation did the same. They connected fully, dropping all barriers, sharing one massive consciousness spread across 12 stations. Through their combined awareness, they saw everything. Every corridor in Station 7, every damaged escape pod, every person in danger, and they guided the evacuation within human precision. Pod 17 is functional, they said through Hyunwoo's mouth, but it was thousands of voices speaking as one. Redirect families from Section C. Pod 9 needs bypass code Alpha 73. Engineer Minsu can fix it if he reroutes through the auxiliary panel. Doyen watched in horror and awe as the evacuation proceeded with impossible efficiency. Every person knew exactly where to go. Engineers fixed systems they shouldn't have been able to understand. Children as young as 5 led groups of adults to safety because the communion knew the optimal paths. Within 8 minutes, everyone was off Station 7 and safely aboard other stations. The attacking ships, frustrated by the sudden evacuation, destroyed the empty station and fled before Haven's defensive ships could arrive. 1,200 lives saved. 0 casualties, but the cost was visible in Hyunwoo's face when he finally came back to himself. He looked exhausted and scared. What did we just become? He whispered. Mirai sat beside him, her poet's soul struggling to find words. Something necessary. Something frightening. Something human, but more than human. Thalvex had watched the entire event from his ship. Quinara's hands trembled as she reviewed the data. Commander, they coordinated 1,200 people across multiple stations in 8 minutes. The level of consciousness integration required for that is beyond anything in our records. They're a hive mind, Thalvex said quietly. The Empire was right to be afraid. Were they? Quinara challenged. I saw a species save its own people with remarkable efficiency. Where's the threat in that? The threat is in what happens when that power is used for something other than evacuation. Imagine that level of coordination in combat. In politics, in conquest, a species that can think and act as one is unstoppable. On Haven Prime, Seojin presented his findings to the full council. He showed them the truth about the communion, how it was growing stronger, how the younger generation was developing abilities that terrified even themselves. We're not just humans with a connection anymore, he concluded. We're becoming something else. Every time we use the communion at full power, we evolve a little more. The question is whether we can control it or whether it will control us. The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some wanted to suppress the communion's growth. Others wanted to embrace it. A few suggested destroying the Genesis Protocol data to prevent other species from following their path. Doyen stood, and the room fell silent. We can debate what we're becoming, but right now we have a more immediate problem. Someone just tried to kill 1,200 humans. Someone who knows about us and wants us dead. Yunji pulled up tracking data from the attacking ships. I got partial scans before they fled. The hull signatures match classified Velkari military designs from 300 years ago, the same era as the device that destroyed Earth. Someone in the Empire has been covering up genocide for 3 centuries, Mirai said. And now that we've survived and revealed ourselves, they're trying to finish the job quietly. Thalvex contacted them immediately after reviewing his own sensor data. His face appeared on their screens and he looked sick. Doyen, I traced those ships. They launched from a hidden base in the outer reaches, a base that officially doesn't exist. I'm sending you coordinates and access codes. If you want proof of who destroyed Earth, you'll find it there. Why are you helping us? Hyunji asked suspiciously. Because this is bigger than protocol, bigger than the Empire's pride. Someone murdered 5 billion humans and has been covering it up ever since. That's not the Empire I serve. That's not the Empire I believe in. Thalvex paused. But you should know. I accessed classified files to get this information. I've committed treason. My career is over. Maybe my life too. Then come here, Hyunwoo offered. Stay with us. Help us expose the truth. Thalvex shook his head. I can do more good from inside the Empire. I still have allies. People who believe in justice. But you need to act fast. Whoever is behind this will know I accessed those files. They'll move to destroy the evidence. After the transmission ended, Doyun gathered his core team. Eunji, Hyunwoo, Mirai, and Seojin. We have a choice. We can stay here, fortify, and wait for the Empire to decide our fate. Or we can take the fight to whoever tried to exterminate us. If we attack that base, we're declaring war on the Empire, Yunji warned. Not the Empire, Mirai corrected. Just the part that's corrupt. The part that murdered us and tried to cover it up. We expose them, we might actually get justice. Part 5, a new compact. The secret base hung in the void like a spider waiting in its web. It was old, built from technology 3 centuries out of date but heavily defended. Automated weapon systems tracked every piece of space debris larger than a fist. Shield generators powerful enough to deflect battleship fire hummed with constant energy. Hyunwoo felt the communion pulse through him, and the 49 others on his team. They moved as one through space, their small ships coordinated with impossible precision. Through their shared consciousness, they saw from 50 perspectives at once, processed data 50 times faster than individuals, and reacted before sensors could even register threats. Weapons platform approaching Vector 7, one body observed. Shifting course, another responded. But the words were unnecessary. They all knew. They all moved. 50 people acting as one organism. Inside the base, alarms screamed. The automated defenses detected the intrusion, but couldn't track targets that moved with such fluid coordination. By the time the systems aimed, the humans were already somewhere else. Hyunwoo's team breached the hull and flooded into the corridors. The base was mostly automated, but a small crew of 12 Velkari maintained it. They never stood a chance. Within seconds, they were subdued and restrained without a single injury on either side. Data core located, the communion announced through multiple mouths. Downloading now. The files were massive. 300 years of cover-up, orders, communications, names, and at the center of it all, the truth about Earth's destruction. It had been an experiment, a new weapon designed to collapse stars remotely, creating supernovas that could sterilize entire systems. The scientists needed a test site. They chose Earth's sun because all intelligence indicated the system was primitive and isolated. An acceptable loss for the advancement of imperial security. But the experiment went wrong. The star collapsed faster than predicted. There was no time to evacuate even if they'd wanted to. 5 billion humans died in 18 months, and the faction responsible buried the evidence, blamed natural stellar collapse, and continued their work. The names in the files were important. High-ranking military officials, scientific advisors, and 3 current members of the High Council, including Vexthun. We have everything, Hyunwoo said. his voice his own again as he pulled back from the deep communion connection. Transmitting to Haven Prime now. But as the data streamed out, the base's defense systems activated a final protocol. A stellar collapse device identical to the one that killed Earth began charging in the center of the station. "They're going to destroy the base and us with it," one of the team members said. "Cover up the cover-up." Hyunwoo closed his eyes and reached out through the communion, not just to his team, but to all of humanity. Across the Haven network, millions of humans felt his call. They joined their consciousness to his, and together they saw the device, understood it, and knew how to stop it. "It needs 3 minutes to fully charge," the communion calculated through countless minds. "We can disable it in 2 minutes 43 seconds if we work together." What followed was beautiful and terrifying. 50 bodies moved with perfect coordination. Engineers who'd never seen this specific technology worked on it like they'd built it themselves because the collective knowledge of millions guided their hands. Scientists across the Haven network analyzed the systems and transmitted solutions instantaneously through the communion. With 8 seconds remaining, they shut it down. "Mission complete," Hyunwoo reported, exhausted but alive, returning home. On Haven Prime, Doyen received the data and immediately understood its weight. This evidence could destroy the Empire's leadership. It could also trigger a civil war across 17 species. The question was what to do with it. Miri found the answer in the old files. Hidden beneath the cover-up documents was another truth. The scientists who'd destroyed Earth had been horrified by what they'd done. Some had tried to come forward but were silenced. Others had left behind confessions, hoping someone would eventually find them. They weren't all monsters, Miri told the council. Some of them wanted to make it right but didn't know how. The corruption was bigger than them. "It still is," Yoonji disagreed. "They killed us. All of them. The ones who gave orders and the ones who stayed silent. They all deserve to be exposed and punished." "Punishment won't bring Earth back," Hyunwoo said quietly, "and it won't build the future we want. We have a choice. We can use this evidence like a weapon, destroy the Empire's leadership and watch the galaxy burn in the chaos that follows, or we can use it as leverage to build something better." "What are you suggesting?" Doyen asked. "The Haven Accord," Hyunwoo replied. "We offer them a deal. Full disclosure of what happened to Earth. Trials for those directly responsible, but not galactic war. In exchange, Haven gets full sovereignty. We share the preservation aspects of Genesis Protocol with any species facing extinction, and the Communion becomes a neutral mediator in galactic disputes." "They'll never agree to that," Yoonji said. "You're asking them to admit to genocide and give us power in their government." "Actually," Thalvex's voice came through the communication system. He'd been listening from his ship. "They might. I've been talking to allies in the High Council. The clean ones. They're horrified by what they've learned. They want justice too, but they're also terrified of civil war. If you can offer them a path forward that doesn't tear the Empire apart, they'll take it." Quinara appeared beside Thalvex on the screen. "I've been analyzing the data you recovered. With your permission, I'd like to present it to the High Council along with your proposed accord. Coming from a Velkari scientist, it might carry more weight." "Why would you do that?" Seojin asked. "You'd be making enemies of powerful people." "Because it's right," Quinara replied simply. "And because I've seen what humanity can become. You're not a threat. You're an opportunity, a chance for the galaxy to evolve beyond its fears." The transmission to the full Galactic High Council went out 3 days later. Every species, every leader, every citizen who wanted to watch. Humanity presented its evidence, its accusations, and its proposed solution. The reaction was explosive. Half the Empire demanded immediate justice and trials. The other half denied everything and called it human propaganda. Vexthun and the others named in the files tried to flee but were arrested by their own people. For 2 weeks, the galaxy teetered on the edge of chaos. Then something unexpected happened. 17 species had faced extinction events in the 3 centuries since Earth's destruction. Asteroids, plagues, stellar radiation. They'd all survived, but barely. When humanity offered to share the preservation technology that had saved them, those species became humanity's strongest advocates. "The humans could have used their evidence to destroy us," one ambassador argued before the council. "Instead, they offered to help us survive our own disasters. That's not the action of a species seeking revenge. That's the action of a species seeking peace." The trials took 6 months. Vexthun and 14 others were found guilty of conspiracy, genocide, and cover-up. Their sentences were harsh but fair. The Empire's leadership was restructured, the Ascension laws were reviewed and reformed, and the Haven Accord was accepted. Humanity received full sovereignty. The Haven network expanded to 30 stations within 5 years. The Genesis Protocol preservation technology was shared with any species that requested it under strict oversight. 7 species used it to save populations from various disasters, and each time, they thanked humanity for the gift of survival. The communion became what Hyunwoo had envisioned, a neutral mediator. When species couldn't understand each other's perspectives, human mediators with the ability to truly share consciousness helped bridge the gaps. 17 conflicts were resolved peacefully in the first decade of the Haven Accord, but the communion also learned restraint. After the crisis passed, Hyunwoo and his generation chose to limit their deep connections. They remained linked but loosely, individuals first, community second, never losing themselves in the collective. 50 years after first contact, Doyon stood in the assembly hall of the new galactic complex. He was old now, his hair white but his eyes still sharp. He'd served as Earth's first galactic ambassador for 4 decades before finally retiring. Beside him stood Yunji, who'd transformed Haven's defense forces into a rapid response team that protected endangered species across the galaxy. She'd personally led evacuation efforts for 3 different species facing extinction. Mirai had become famous across the Empire. Her poetry and histories were required reading in schools. The Book of Rebirth had sold billions of copies and been translated into 47 languages. She'd captured humanity's journey from extinction to integration in words that made even aliens weep. Thalvex and Quinara had married, the first Velkari-human alliance. They taught at the Institute of Communion Studies, helping other species understand collective consciousness without fearing it. Seojin still ran security for Haven, but now he trained officers from 17 species in his methods: precision, restraint, protection without aggression.